So last night on Newsnight with Abby Phillips, the Democrats' hypocrisy and lies were on full display. And the internet, it took notice exposing it all. And what this really is, once again, is an example of how these people go on these platforms and they'll say whatever they want, whatever fits the narrative, even if it's not actually factual. And on a program like Newsnight with Abby Phillips, where she doesn't really fact check anybody, specifically Democrats, they're able to get away with that sort of thing. But this is exactly why, on a broader scale, the Democrat Party is failing. When you're more concerned with protecting a narrative than dealing with reality, it usually doesn't end well. And so first up, let's jump into Scott Jennings, setting the record straight with one of the guests on the panel who thought she could omit facts to sound factual, but not so fast. Take a listen.
Easily fix this, because 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and it happens in New York and it happened in many other states, the way ICE operated was they weren't deployed into villages. They weren't deployed into cities, boots on the ground like stormtroopers. They went to the courthouses. They went to the jails. They picked up illegal immigrants.
Why can't they do that in Minneapolis?
Why can't they do that all over the place?
They do.
Exactly.
Why can't they do that in Minneapolis?
Because the sanctuary cities, and I'm going to agree with you on this point, the sanctuary cities precluded the federal government from doing that anymore. They used to do it. New York is a sanctuary city. They used to do it in New York. Wait a minute. There's one point I want to make. We have the notorious Rikers Island jail. ICE had an office at the jail where when somebody was released from their sentence from prison and they were an illegal immigrant, they were immediately taken with the cooperation of the state, federal and state working together. They were taken into immigration custody immediately, gone through immigration proceedings, and shipped out of the country. That was a way that worked.
It works all over the country today.
But the federal government right now, but the Trump administration could employ, instead of sending 2,000 to 3,000. Wait, let me finish my point.
They won't let them in the jails.
Hold on, can you just let her finish her point?
Yeah, and that's the part that she wants to omit. There's a reason why you don't see these sort of protests and this sort of chaos in Florida, in Texas. It's the reason why you don't see that, though, because one, well, they're red states and they don't have these ridiculous sanctuary city policies, sanctuary state policies that states like California, I spoke about this before, states like California, Oregon, Illinois, New York, Connecticut, several states not only employ sanctuary city policies, but we're talking about they've become sanctuary states where it's no longer about what a sanctuary city is supposed to be, which was helping those seeking asylum, refugees, and that sort of thing, like it was in the 80s, like it was originally. No, now it's about defying the government. Now it's about cooperating less with the federal government. And there's a reason why 10 years ago, it's 2026, 2016, there's a reason why 10 years ago, you didn't see this sort of thing. Well, because sanctuary state policies really didn't come into play that heavily until guess when? 2017. 2017 is when these states started to create sanctuary state policies, further limiting cooperation they would have with the federal government. And so that's why you see this in very targeted places as far as Minnesota, Illinois. Yeah, it's easy to say, well, if they would just cooperate, yeah, of course, but they're not going to cooperate because they put it into their state laws that they will not cooperate with the federal government. And the question that you have to ask is, why, after having a specific set of sanctuary policies on the books for so long, why would you then go and further limit the cooperation you have with the federal government all of a sudden when Trump is in office? And then when Biden was in office, we saw what happened as far as the release of so many migrants allowed to come across the border. But here's Scott Jennings responding to that. Take a listen.
Can I respond to this?
And brute defense.
Okay,
sure,
so
you're going to anyway.
Your point is this, that there should be cooperation between state, local, and the feds. Totally agree with you. In fact, there is cooperation. States and cities, locales all over the country are doing this. They are not doing it in Minneapolis because Walz and Fry and the Democrats who run the state and the city of Minneapolis will not permit it. The feds have been begging them to go into the jails in exactly the manner that you are prescribing. They're doing it all over the country. The reason you have 2,000 ICE agents in Minneapolis is because they have to catch illegal aliens on the streets not in administrative transfers in the jail.
But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. They're going after American citizens and stopping them and asking them to identify themselves as citizens of the United States. That is not a country I want to live in. That's not even American.
Video evidence.
Clearly, she's ignoring the facts because it doesn't fit the narrative that she wants to write. And so she's ignoring it in order to project what she wants us to believe. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're a sanctuary city, we're a sanctuary state, and we won't cooperate. We won't give you access to our jails. We're not going to actually work with you when it comes to releasing violent criminals, people who actually have a record or have committed violent crimes. Those people, we're not even going to help you with those people. No, you don't get access to that. But you also, we don't want you roaming our cities and conducting your investigations and your searches that way either. You can't have it both ways. Why do you not hear anything from Florida? You don't think that there are illegal migrants in Florida? Of course there are. But Florida decides to cooperate and work with the federal government. So there's no storyline there. There's no CNN breaking news. There's no MS Now. There's no ABC, CBS reporting every day, giving you live updates about what's going on, because it's not really that entertaining to just say, hey, the federal government and the state government are working together to remove these violent criminals. No storyline there when the Trump administration is actually doing their job. It only works when they can have a narrative they can push. And so because of that, ICE is going to be in the city. They're going to conduct their investigations and they're going to do it their way. And yeah, just like every other law enforcement agency, including the local and state police, they're going to make a mistake also. They're not going to be 100% right when they grab somebody or when they pick someone up. They may make a mistake here or there. It's unfortunate, but guess what? All it is cause and effect. Based on what they're allowed to do, based on the assistance they're receiving from the state government or the lack thereof assistance from the state government, this is the route they have to take. The madness doesn't stop there. In this clip, we got Scott Jennings coming with straight facts, and the internet backs him with this one, actually verifying it, even though we knew and he knew what he was talking about. Nonetheless, that did not stop the host, the moderator, at least that's what she's supposed to be in name, Abby Phillips, from telling him flat out, well, no, Tim Walz never said that. Unfortunately for Abby, like in many cases we see on this show, she's flat out wrong. Take a listen.
And look, based on their public statements, it's pretty clear that, and based on the statements of officials at DOJ, it's pretty clear there is concern that these two guys have used their positions and their public statements to try to obstruct the execution of federal laws. Now, whether that rises to a crime, I don't know.
Give me an example.
Yeah, where's that clarity?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they've both made numerous public statements that have made it perfectly clear that they do not want federal laws to be enforced in Minnesota, and that they flatly said they don't want ICE there enforcing federal immigration laws. They both said that. They have literally both said, ICE, leave Minnesota. In fact, Tim Walz said we're on the third day of Gettysburg at one point.
He did not say that either. Okay, sorry, but he didn't say that. Jacob Fry has said,
when things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation on that July 3rd, 1863. And I think now we may be in that moment.
To be clear, he is referring to a Minnesota regiment during the Battle of Gettysburg. Hyperbole is one thing, but this makes things far, far more dangerous.
Abby Phillips is supposed to be the moderator, but somehow she just consistently shows up as another Democrat talking head supporting their side. And then when it comes time for conservatives to make their and represent their points, she requests additional facts, additional information, a way to prove that what they're saying is actually verified and true. And when they come with that information, then she'll just simply say things like she just said right there. Well, no, he never said that. But the internet clearly proved that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And to be fair, I wouldn't know what that was referring to either, just by the date that he listed in history, Tim Walz, when he was at that conference, as we just saw in that clip. But I'm not on CNN. And if I didn't know, I wouldn't be so confident in saying, no, he never said that, without actually making sure that I know for a fact that he didn't say it. But let's get into this next clip with Tiffany Cross, who claims to be an independent, but somehow whenever she speaks, her talking points come straight out of the Democrat playbook. And just listen to how Scott Jennings, he handles her rhetoric perfectly in this instance. Take a listen.
They are casting a wide net of deplorable people who hold certain ideological beliefs, people who have Nazi tattoos on their necks, and descending them on American cities. And it's costing local municipalities millions of dollars.
Scott.
Respond to what?
What she just said.
Oh, you're worried about tattoos like the guy that's going to win the Maine Senate primary with the Nazi tattoos?
Here we go. Let's deflect. Let's
no, I'm asking.
focus
if you're worried about tattoos,
but let's talk about what's happening in America.
Yeah, I'm not going to respond to ad hominem attacks on 70 million Americans who decided to vote Republican in the November 2024 election. I don't think it's right. You come out here, you call people liars, you call anybody who votes Republican, you say they don't have a moral compass. I didn't
say anybody who votes Republican. I said the people who voted for Donald Trump.
Okay, he's a Republican, and he won in November with Republicans who voted for him. So don't back away from your
I'm not backing away. I don't think they have a moral compass.
That's how you feel, but I'm not.
You don't ever have to worry about me backing away from that point.
I don't feel like I have to respond to these attacks. In fact, I think you ought to ask her if she really believes 70 million people lack a moral compass.
And that's why you have to stay on these people. You got Tiffany Cross cosplaying like an independent when she's really just a Democrat. She has all the Democrat talking points, but then she'll say she's an independent. You got to call these people out when they try to use the double talk. Call out their lies because they'll dance around what they're actually saying in order to try and make it look like conservatives are the ones who actually have the problems. Yeah, but now let's get into this next clip with Tiffany Cross, and she falsely accuses Pete Seat of misrepresenting the report and being in a cult. And as usual, Abby Phillips, she doesn't say anything, but the internet goes back and the accuracy of what Pete Seat was referencing was true. Tiffany Cross didn't know what she was talking about, but nonetheless, that didn't stop her from sounding like she thought she did. Take a listen.
On this very network during the 4 p.m. Eastern hour, a reporter was on the ground in Minneapolis, and he was explaining what he has seen with his own eyes, that during the day, yes, peaceful protesters exercising their First Amendment right. But what happens when the sun goes down? A new group of people, younger, come out, and in his words, are agitators. They are standing outside a federal facility where ICE agents are going to start their work or finish their work for the day, and these agitators are kicking the cars, hitting the cars, trying to cause problems. And we're not focused on that.
But I just also want to correct something. A complete misrepresentation of what the reporter you were referencing, Shimon, was on ground in Minneapolis. And I saw the stand-up he did in the 4 p.m. Eastern hour. He absolutely did not say what you suggested he did. He was saying what he had been told. He's been on the ground bearing witness.
He said, I have seen this,
the audience can look at it.
Agitators.
He didn't. He said what he's been told.
But
it's not about what I'd like, but I think of the liars at the table, I'm probably not in that category. And I'm also not a cult member where I regurgitate every talking point from the GOP.
We'll show you the transcript in the commercial break.
Great.
But last night, what I witnessed was that many of the people who were out here, and they're not protesters, these are the agitators. They were trying to stop the cars from going in. They were kicking the cars. They were attacking the cars. And this went on for a while. And for the most part, federal law enforcement stood back. And they said, okay, let's see if this ends. And it didn't. And then finally, at around 11 Eastern, they had just had it. And that's when we got caught in the middle of the tear gas that was being thrown, the flashbangs that the federal law enforcement was here throwing to disperse the crowd. It really came as a surprise because for most of the time they were allowing the agitators to stay here and the protesters who were in the street, and then eventually they had enough and they pushed people back. But that's where the flashpoints, Casey, occurred.
Oh man. You're a fool. I mean, I'm sorry I gotta be so blunt, but that lady is a fool. Really. And I don't mean to like disparage her personally or nothing like that, but when you want to be so confident, then you want to say that, well, I'm not the one who's in the cult, then yeah, you're a fool because you don't know what you're talking about. Clearly you didn't listen to what he said because he sat there and exactly what Pete said he said as far as witnessing these agitators and what they're doing to create this chaos. That's exactly what was said by the reporter. Listen, I get it. I don't have a problem if people feel differently as far as what they think ICE should be able to do and what they shouldn't be able to do. You can have your opinion. The law's the law. If you believe the situation that took place in Minnesota went down one way and it should have went down another way, that's fine. But when people just start to ignore actual facts, you can't take them seriously. You can't really even listen or have a conversation with them because you know they're not operating from a place of being genuine. And they're not operating from actual reality. They're operating from a place where it has to fit their narrative. It has to be able to fit in the box of making them feel like they're right. And that's what we saw on display from the Democrats on this panel tonight. But that's my opinion. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. Don't forget, smash the thumbs up button. Let me know you loved the video. Subscribe to the channel for more and share this video. That way more people see what's really going on. Until next time.